I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. When I first joined Twitter, I used it for a very specific purpose. I would live tweet jokes during presidential debates and primaries. Look, this was my lane, and I tried to stay in it. Now, I did have friends and colleagues who were much more serious about how they use the app. For journalists, it can be a vital way to add more context to their stories or find stories in the first place. Love it or hate it, Twitter has impacted our lives and how we get our information. Now that billionaire Elon Musk purchased the company and instituted new policies, thousands of users and workers have left the platform, and the future of the app hangs in the balance. So, what will Twitter become? Can it survive? My next guests are here to offer with no character limit, their views. Andrea Williams is a writer and author who has taken to Twitter to call for greater diversity and equity in our cultural institutions. And author Dave Delaney has written about networking and is an organizer in Nashville's tech community. I want to thank you both for being here. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure. So let me ask you both the big question. Is Twitter on its last legs? Andrea?
Honestly, I don't know. That is a really good question. I am not an expert. I cannot say. It's been interesting to see though. I wouldn't say my Twitter follower count was terribly high, but I've noticed that it has gone down. I've started engaging with it differently. I don't post as much yet. I don't want to walk away completely because it is that valuable. So I can't say that it's on its last leg. I know some other people in my position, friends, colleagues, other journalists that are like, yeah, I can't walk away either. So in that regard, it's like, it feels like there's something left, but it's definitely a lot different for sure.
All right. Well, Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's on its last legs. I think people are trying new places. They're experimenting with different mediums and different places like Mastodon, for example. So it's interesting to see people moving on and trying new things. But I think as an early adopter in social media and social networking sites like Twitter, those of us like that like to play and try new things and new toys. So, back when I started on Twitter in 2007, we had Twitter had competitors like Jaiku and Plurk and Pounce and all these other microblogging services. And microblogging wasn't even a word yet. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's going away necessarily, but it's a very expensive $45 billion bet.
Yes, that is. So what makes you think that it's going to be able to move past all of these problems it's experiencing?
Well, and certainly there are many opinions about Elon Musk with good reason. But I also do think that he happens to be a smart fella, and he has surrounded himself with very smart people. Obviously, I mean, Tesla is incredible. His sending rockets off to Mars. I mean, he's doing some pretty innovative things, and he's not doing it by himself. So he's surrounding himself with talent, and I think that talent can be tapped to help him maybe rethink or reinvent or just to help Twitter survive.
Now, some would say he also chased talent away with some of these new policies that he's brought into the company. Right.
So, and that's part of what I do with people and businesses is I help them not, be nicer leaders. Mm-hmm. And he's done a terrible job at basically creating a very fearful environment. And what happens then, I understand, especially in technology where layoffs do have to happen sometimes, but when you handle that incorrectly and you do it the wrong way, you get turnover contagion taking place where people are scared for their jobs and they're jumping ship and leaving as soon as they can. And now there's like a mass exodus of talent at Twitter as a result of the way he's handled, his role as a leader there.
Yeah, for some, I'm sure it feels like going to work for Darth Vader. Now, Andrea, over the past few weeks, a lot of people have left the app and, they've moved to other social media platforms. Why do you think people are jumping ship?
I think people are jumping ship because they don't think that Elon Musk is very smart. He has driven away a lot of talent that, Twitter, like any platform, has had its challenges, has had its problems and issues. But there is legitimate concern that with certain people leaving, it is less safe, that there will be more harassment, more trolling, that your personal information can be hacked. And for some people, it's just not worth it. I think, even in talking about Musk, buying the platform, for me, whatever we're still seeing, this idea that maybe Twitter isn't dead just yet is less about what Elon Musk has done for Twitter and what he just happened to inherit because of the users that were already there, right? We talk about what Black Twitter means to this platform. And I know that a lot of people in that community feel like it is not easy to replicate that elsewhere. So it's kind of that, the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know, right? That doesn't mean that, we believe in him and he's doing these great things for the platform. It's, can we realistically at this juncture pick up what we've created here, pick up this community, all of these connections, and plop them down somewhere else? I don't think people feel that they can yet. So yes, as some people are moving to other platforms, I think it's more of a wait and see game. Can Mastodon work out the kinks or the issues that people don't really love right now? Can we get closer to what Twitter created despite the flaws that will have more people moving over there? But yeah, there's definitely a concern about what we have now that he has taken over.
I've got a tweet to read here, but really quick. You both mentioned Mastodon. What is that site? I've never heard of it.
Mastodon is a new social network, and I use air quotes there. You create a profile yourself on what's called an instance or a server. Without getting too nerdy here, it is something relatively new. Now, I've been on there like a couple years now, but it has become very popular because it functions in a similar sort of manner as Twitter. However, it's not owned by any one company. Anybody can create their own server. So it's much more of an open, accessible network. And we talk, Mastodon has been very popular lately, but I do encourage people, and what we were talking about, or what I was talking about earlier, the importance of understanding that social networks are rented land. Right. So when you build a community, and to your point, too, about picking up and trying to move your community elsewhere, if you can build your community on your website, have them sign up for your email newsletter or an email of some sort. That way you have their contact information so that should a social network go down or disappear. I mean, back in the early days, it was a joke because Twitter would go down all the time. Like it would happen constantly. Back in 2008, my account was suspended on Twitter for a weekend from a mistake. But it was this real wake-up call, realizing that all these people who I consider friends on Twitter, I don't even know their real names, let alone their emails or how to get a hold of them. And suddenly I was locked out. And it was this really sobering moment to realize, like, whoa, hold on. We can use these social networks and they can replicate and seem like real relationships. And they are in some extent what's going on in them. But it's so important to back it up and to make sure that you're building these relationships where you can then follow up with them should they go away, these social networks.
Now, don't forget to join the conversation. Tweet us. What else? At This Is Nashville. Now, we got this tweet from local sports journalist and previous This Is Nashville guest, Brian Baston. He writes, I'm only working in journalism now because of Twitter. It's by far the biggest audience for my work, and I've met some of the most amazing people because of it. In fact, without Twitter, I wouldn't cover the Preds, and I would have never met Rose Gilbert, our producer, and maybe never heard of your show. Now, Brian, I love that. And Andrea, you're a journalist. Tell me, how does that resonate? How does that resonate with you?
I mean, completely and in every way. I'm listening, to Dave talk about, the email list and all of that good stuff, which is great. And it's the stuff that my agent and my editors say about how to sell books, how to stay connected with people who enjoy reading your work and will support you in the future. It does not replace, though, that real-time connection with people on Twitter that you maybe didn't know. You tweet something, they tweet something, you're meeting people for the first time. It's hard to replicate that with an email list. And yeah, I mean, if I think about the platforms that I write for regularly now, I think they can all be traced to social media. Whether it's an editor reaching out to me connecting with an editor. I'm actually starting to do some work to help out with The Porch. I met Susanna Feltz over Twitter. It has been that the impact on my career has been immeasurable. And that's to say nothing of the work that I've been able to do, as you mentioned in the intro, for other communities, outside of my own, the advocacy work that I do for Black creatives in country music. I'm not in country music as an artist or a songwriter or anything like that. But I have been able to start conversations, to continue the conversations, to bring attention to much needed issues because of Twitter, and not necessarily because of, okay, these were people that were already following me, because I was writing about, sports or whatever. And so they signed up for an email list. This is something that was able to happen in real time, as we see what's going on in the world around us and comment on it and have conversations with other people.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Colonna. We're talking this hour about the future of Twitter with local tweeters Andrea Williams and Dave Delaney. Now, as we mentioned a little bit, people have their opinions about Elon Musk, and some of his recent moves have, got a lot of people worried about the future of the site. For instance, the content moderation team is responsible for monitoring hate speech and or misinformation. That team is pretty much gone. All of this raises concern that the app will even become more of a nasty place and a toxic environment. Dave, so let me ask you, are you concerned about the lack of content moderation in Twitter?
Yeah, I'm deeply concerned about this. I'm a big fan of the work at the Center for Humane Tech that they're doing about misinformation, and specifically disinformation as well. Not to mention trolls and all that. But yeah, no, I'm deeply concerned about this. Social networks like Twitter have been used to fuel hate and to fuel anger. And yeah, no, I'm deeply concerned about it. And I wish there was a terms of service, or not a terms of service, but I wish there was like a user manual, like a 10-point, like NPR has for identifying misinformation. That's a very valuable resource. And for questioning the content you're reading, and for realizing that if you're reading or hearing something that's causing you to be angry, taking a beat to look at the source and to realize, is this even a human I'm corresponding with, first of all? Because there could be a bot that is designed to just spew hatred on Twitter. I mean, I don't mean there could be, there are. There have been for years, but now it's not being policed as well at all, or if at all. And so these things are used to get you engaged and enraged. And if it bleeds, it leads, as we say in broadcasting, right? So, yes, I'm deeply concerned about it. I'm deeply concerned not just for Twitter and for this, but for the fact that we need to question the information we're receiving and seeing, question the sources, do our own fact checking, and refer back to valuable fact checking sources so that we can better understand whether we're being fed garbage or not, so that we can be responsible citizens.
Trolls, bots, and commenters. Oh my! Well, what about free apps? The free speech absolutist viewpoint. Why not just let people battle it out in the marketplace of ideas?
Because it's a business. You can't go into a crowded movie theater and yell fire. That's not free speech. There's terms of service, or there should be terms of service that make sure that people are, behaving the way they should on whatever the platform is, as dictated by the people that run that platform. And the fact that Twitter is, backstepping all of this now. I mean, even now, no longer managing any information regarding COVID, that alone is quite horrific. So yeah, I'm concerned.
Andrea, what are your views?
Yeah, no, I agree. That again, that goes back to this idea that, Elon may be a smart guy. I'm not here to comment on that. We're talking specifically about Twitter and his reign thus far. And yeah, it is definitely problematic on a lot of accounts, for sure.
All right. So, the internet, and there's big-time issue of authenticity and trust. The famous blue check mark that's been used to verify if a user is actually who they claim to be. But, now it could also mean that they're just a subscriber to Twitter Blue, which is offered for a payment of $8 a month. There have already been tweets that raised eyebrows. Andrea, how does this affect how people view the trustworthiness of the platform?
Yeah, I don't know. I will speak for me personally. I don't know that it impacts trust. It feels like a money grab, which I think it is, right? This idea that now you can pay for your blue check mark. I was not verified before. I'm not paying to get verified. That's another issue of concern. It's like, okay, well, how will my tweets now show up? Will they be valued in the algorithm? Will other people see my tweets when I post because I don't have a blue check mark? I think it just, again, because, the people that had their verification still have it. And I guess you can click on the blue check mark to see if they were previously verified or if they paid for this verification. So I don't know if it's a trustworthy thing as much as it just really looks like Elon is flailing and trying to make money however he can, particularly as people start to leave the platform.
Well, speaking about trustworthiness, there's a prominent local account that people really, really rely on, myself included. Nashville Severe Weather. We've invited them today, yes, but they weren't available. But, that account has saved lives. Dave, what do you think is going to happen to them on the app?
Well, as long as if they deleted their Twitter account, let's say, this is part of the reason why I'm encouraging people that I speak with not to delete their Twitter accounts necessarily in protest of whatever's going on now. The problem is if you delete your account, then someone else could take that username and they could buy a verification and make it look like them. And so that is a concern. But as far as Twitter, day by day, I've been following them since they got started on Twitter. And that is a huge reason why it's amazing to me too, and I am verified, so I don't know whether I'll pay to continue my verification or not. I don't know what value that really serves. My kids think it's cool.
Hey,
it might be the only thing.
Street cred means a lot.
But yeah, it's Nashville Severe Weather. I mean, they do an amazing work and an amazing service. But I think, as long as they stay doing what they're doing, whether they're verified or not, I have this. So it's interesting, the history of Twitter and a lot of social networking services, they've always done a terrible job at promoting their best features. So for example, Twitter has Twitter lists, private lists, and public lists. And it's always been there, or it's been there for many years. And that's one of these features where I have a private list of media people that I trust on Twitter. Actually, it's a public list. You can find it at Dave Delaney. You can find the list. But others subscribe to that list. They follow that list so they can see these trustworthy news sources who I've selected. And so whether they change their names or anything now, or whether they're verified or not, it doesn't matter. They'll still be on that list is what I was getting at there.
All right. So final question for you. With all this change, all this turmoil and upheaval, do you think Twitter is going to remain as it is, or will it transform into something else?
It's definitely going to transform into something else. I think Elon's already, I've read stories about, into a payment platform, into more of a comprehensive media source or medium sort of aggregator, if you will. I don't know what the future holds for Twitter, but I do believe that Elon may not be the last owner of Twitter. Twitter may be sold to someone else with a better management style, I would hope. So I don't think it's the end of Twitter. But I think in its current iteration, things are certainly evolving, and I think it will grow into something different, and God willing, something good.
Dave Delaney is a longtime organizer in Nashville's tech community and author of the book New Business Networking. Dave, thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.